It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday. I'm Kevin Abbott. We're at Barrel of Monks Brewing talking about incredible classic beers that we don't think get enough love and respect. And we are talking this week about the Oktoberfest from Penn Brewing. This is a beer that's been around for a very, very long time. Penn Brewery has been around for a very long time. They started way back in 1986, and this beer was one of the original beers that they kind of launched. Well, maybe they might not have launched with it, but it came out, for the best of my understanding, in 1986. So this is a brewery that's been around a long time. They're one of the OGs, quite honestly, in the American craft beer movement. They're a brewery that was readily available here in Florida when I was getting into craft beer. They were one of the few breweries that were readily available here that had a nice wide range of different styles of beer. They're a really, really good brewery. I don't think we've ever featured a beer from Penn before, but that's not because they're not good beers. It's just, I just never ran into it at the store. Wasn't thinking about some of the beers, but I saw the Oktoberfest and I thought back. It's obviously the near the end of the Oktoberfest season, and a style that I keep telling you every single week we talk about these beers, how much I love them. And this was not not my first Oktoberfest beer, but it was one of the early American versions of an Oktoberfest that I ever tried. And it's one of the beers that helped me fall in love with the style. I love a malty lager. I like something that's going to be, that has that breadiness, the caramelness here, a little bit of nuttiness and roasty flavors. And it kind of ticks all those boxes here, around with being subtle and having some of that earthy hop flavor that you expect from in a beer just like this. One of the things I find interesting on this beer, and this is me always trying to do a little bit of research and find out what does Penn say about this beer, what are other people saying about the beer, what does information on Beer Advocate say, and I've seen this beer listed as a fest beer, which if you a regular watcher of the show, fest beer versus Märzen, both are considered Oktoberfest or labeled as Oktoberfest, and the fest beer tends to be a little bit lighter in color, a little bit more hop presence, while the Märzen is darker in color, a little more malt forward, caramelly. And if you kind of look at this beer, you really do get kind of the best of both worlds as far as the color. And then when it comes to the flavor, it's very similar. You've got that nice earthy hop note, but it doesn't get that really big burst of malt that you get in some Märzens. So the fact that I have seen this beer listed as both is not surprising to me, because it almost seems a little bit like a tweener when it comes to those two styles. And even on Penn's website, they just listed as an Oktoberfest. They don't say Märzen, they don't say fest beer. And maybe that's by design, or maybe that's just how they've always done it. I have no idea, but I think that's an interesting thing to have this flavor profile that's kind of the best of both worlds between two very, very good interpretations of a similar kind of idea for a beer. I mean, just super clean, really, really drinkable. It's another one of those beers that I go to and say, if you are trying to convince somebody to try craft beer for the first time, you could do worse than handing them one of these, because it is a beer. It is a beer flavored beer. It has malt flavor, it has hop flavor, but it's interesting. It's more complex. You can go back. Even people that are novices that aren't good at picking out flavors can go back in there and go, oh yeah, I do get a little nuttiness out of this. Oh yeah, it is slightly earthy. Oh, I do get some caramel. And really kind of deliver the goods in all ways, shapes, and forms. So I'm happy that I was able to run into this beer recently. I'm happy that we finally get a chance to review a beer from Penn, because they are fantastic. If you have a chance to get any beers from their line, you're probably going to be a happy camper, because they've been doing it really, really well for a very long time, as we said. Talking about beer and food pairings. Listen, anytime you're talking about an Oktoberfest, whether it's a Märzen or a Fest beer, you're always going to, if you do a Google search, what do I pair with this? You're going to get schnitzel, you're going to get sausages, you're going to get soft pretzels and brown mustard. That is the classic flavors that these beers are purported to work well with. Well, I don't deny that those are good pairings, but kind of reaching beyond the bounds of just going with something that is kind of like almost paint by numbers. One of the things I think about when I drink this beer is it's fall, right? And these flavors work really, really well with something like butternut squash and those kind of fall vegetables. I'd like to see this with like a butternut squash risotto or ravioli. You can kind of interchange those two things, like a brown butter sage sauce. I think all those flavors, the sage, playing into the earthiness of the hops, I think there would be a nice complement there. And then you have the brown butter, the sweetness and the caramelization of that, really bringing out some of the flavors in the beer and vice versa. And the butternut squash, I think, goes really, really well here. So I think those are, one dish kind of ingredients for one dish represented in two different ways in both the ravioli and risotto. I don't think you can go wrong. You also have the fact that this beer is clean and drinkable. You can kind of rinse the palate because those are hearty dishes, and you want something that's going to be able to stand up to that and be able to wash down like the fattiness and the richness of the dishes. So that's what we're talking about here. Uh, my favorite season for beers, because you have the pumpkin beers, because you have the Oktoberfest beers, and there's more to come. There's a lot more beers that we have to talk about. We might end up doing most of those or more of them going on to next year. It's a shame that I can't do like 10 of these every single year, but I like to keep them into the season when these beers are available. That's the whole goal, for you guys to go, oh yeah, I forgot about this beer, and then pop on down to the grocery store, pick them up, and enjoy them. If you guys have any other favorite seasonal beers, especially like Christmas beers coming up or things of that nature, let us know what beers you'll be drinking for Old Favorite Friday, what beers you're anticipating. What are you looking forward to in the Christmas beer category? Because we have a bunch of those that we've reviewed in the past, and we're certainly going to review them in the future. And please like and subscribe to this video series so you can get these videos all the time. And please poke around on our channel if you're here already and look at some of the older videos we've done talking about great beers just like this one. We hope to see you next time. Cheers.